afternoon. Welcome to this session. We are going to look at this. So the objectives of this unit under respiratory system is be able to differentiate external respiration and internal respiration, trace the path of air from the atmosphere to the bloodstream. You should be able to describe how gases exchange in the lungs and its transportation in the bloodstream. You should be able to summarize the skeletal and muscular changes that occur during breathing. And you should be also able to describe how the rate of breathing is controlled. Look at the introduction. Blood transports oxygen from the lungs to cells, carries carbon dioxide from the cells to the lungs. This is the fundamental role that blood plays. It carries oxygen from the lungs to all cells so that these cells are able to perform various metabolic processes in relation to physiology of the body. The cells of the body need energy for their chemical activities that maintain homeostasis. Most of this energy is derived from chemical reactions which can only take place in the presence of oxygen, abbreviated as O2. So we understand that most of the metabolic chemical reactions that takes place in the body, they need to take place in the presence of oxygen. It is for this fundamental reason that the body tries by all means to make sure that oxygen is present at all the times with the continuation of respiratory mechanism. It is the function of the respiratory system to transport gases to and from the secretory system. So when we talk of gases, there are a lot of gases that are being transported, but the most notable gases that plays a very fundamental role in as far as human physiology is concerned is oxygen and carbon dioxide. The respiratory system involves both external and internal respiration, which I mentioned in the beginning. External respiration is the exchange of gases between atmosphere and the blood. The exchange of blood, the exchange of gases that takes place between the atmosphere and the blood is what is described as the external respiration. Described as external respiration. Internal respiration is the exchange of gases between the blood and the cells of the body, whereas the exchange of gases that takes place between the blood and cells of the body is the one that we call internal respiration, and you can see that it is taking place inside the human body. There is no involvement of any external feature or structure. Cellular respiration or aerobic respiration involves the use of oxygen to break down glucose in the cells. Cellular respiration or aerobic respiration involves the use of oxygen to break down glucose in the cells. So this is the reaction that requires oxygen for it to break down glucose in the cell. So you may see that if we don't have enough oxygen in our body tissues, this reaction may take place, it may fail to take place. As a result, there'll be there'll be there'll be problems at cellular level because the cells are able to receive glucose for various functions. We will examine the structures and mechanisms that carry oxygen to the cells for use in aerobic respiration and that will remove the carbon dioxide that is produced by the same process. So after the tissues they've been provided with the oxygen, they undergo various chemical reactions. The product that is going to come out of those reactions will be carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is not supposed to be kept within those cells, but it has to be removed. How does it get out of the cell, which is the which will be one of the discussions that will come to reign as we proceed with our discussion. Respiration. The main job of the respiratory system is to get oxygen into the body and waste gases, e.g., carbon dioxide, out of the body. So respiration was saying the main purpose of respiration is to provide the body with oxygen as well as to get rid of carbon dioxide that keeps on accumulating in various body tissues due to a variety of chemical reactions that takes place in these tissues. It is the function of the respiratory system to transport gases to and from the circulatory system, which I've explained already. Respiration is a vital function of all living organisms, and this is very true. It's very true. It's very important. It's very vital. It's very significant because it provides living organisms with much needed oxygen for their survival. As well, it ensures that the carbon dioxide that is not supposed to be left inside the cells of the living organisms is taken outside so that the cells remain safe. Respiratory occurs at two different levels. Respiratory occurs at two different levels. The first level is the cellular level. The first level it occurs at cellular level. In the mitochondria of eukaryotic cells, aerobic respiration requires oxygen to break down glucose, release carbon dioxide, and produce larger amounts. So, like I said, the cells require oxygen for aerobic respirations to take place so that they can be breakdown of glucose. When glucose has to be broken down, these cells they achieve various chemical reactions that they have to undergo. Now, the outcome of those chemical reactions that produce carbon dioxide in large amounts. So this happens. This happens with the help of adenosine triphosphate, abbreviated as ATP, and produce large amounts of adenosine triphosphate, ATP. So we're saying when glucose has been broken down, carbon dioxide is released, it produces much energy, and this energy is in form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, abbreviated as ATP. So this level of respiration is called internal respiration or cellular respiration. This level of respiration is called internal respiration or cellular respiration, where oxygen is needed at the cellular level to break down glucose so that so that various reactions can take place and release large amount of adenosine triphosphate, which is energy in form of ATP. The second level is the level of the organism, at the level of the organism. An organism must get oxygen into cells and the carbon dioxide back out. So we're saying an organism has to get oxygen into the cells, and carbon dioxide is supposed to come out of the cell. This level of respiration is called external respiration because the exchange of gases takes place in the external environment. It is called external respiration because the exchange of gases takes place with the external environment. The exchange of gases, oxygen O2 and carbon dioxide CO2 between air and the blood. So we are saying it involves the external environment. The external environment we are talking about the atmosphere. Then the internal environment where it is coming from, it is blood. So it is happening between air and the blood. Internal respiration involves the respiratory system. Internal respiration involves the respiratory system, like we described that the respiratory system, its job, respiratory system's job is to provide oxygen to the body and get rid of carbon dioxide from the body, so that there is good homeostasis, to maintain good homeostasis level for an organism. The respiratory system is a group of organs. The respiratory system is a group of organs working together to bring about the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide with the environment. So the respiratory system, we're looking at a collective of organs which works together to bring about the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide with the environment. So these organs, as we go on with our discussion, we're going to actually know them, that they are part of the respiratory system. A single-celled organism living in water, in blanket diffusion, it gets its oxygen direct from its surrounding, that is the water. So it gets its oxygen direct from water. The oxygen easily diffuses across the cell membrane. So this oxygen is able to get through by diffusion across the cell membrane of the living tissue in the water, the living organism in water. Carbon dioxide also diffuses across the cell membrane. Thus single-cell organisms do not need a respiratory system. So in other words, the single-celled organisms, they don't need a respiratory system, because how they acquire oxygen and how they acquire carbon dioxide is through diffusion of the cell membrane. In multicellular organisms such as the consumers, in multicellular organisms, each cell consumes oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. So that is the difference. In other words, you can see that oxygen will be able to diffuse across the cell membrane. Then as well, carbon dioxide will be able to diffuse across the cell membrane. But in the multicellular organism, once the cell receives oxygen, the outcome of the chemical reactions that they are going to which they are going to undergo to bring about carbon dioxide, or to produce carbon dioxide. So large cellular organisms must have a respiratory system to ensure the effective exchange of gases with the atmosphere quickly and efficiently to survive. This also explains as to why we are different from the inhabitants, the amphibians which are found in water. We need the respiratory system so that it helps in getting rid of all these gases in the atmosphere, so that the homeostasis can be maintained. So these are just some of the amphibians which we just from explain the reason why we differ with these. So we have a frog there, we also have a fish, of course, and other birds. So those are just diagrams trying to show us some discrepancies that exist between them and ourselves. So this occurs every time an organism takes a breath. The atmosphere of planet Earth is approximately 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. The remaining 1% is made up of carbon dioxide, water vapor, and the other trace gases. So this is what is found in the atmosphere. The majority of the gas is nitrogen, then followed by oxygen. Then 1% is made up of carbon dioxide, water vapor, and other trace gases which are not very important, but they play some various significant roles. Humans are air breathers. Humans are air breathers, or in other ways, we say we breathe air. Our survival depends on the oxygen which is coming from air. Our respiratory system has adapted to these contractions of gases, concentrations of gases in the atmosphere. Our respiratory system has adapted to these concentrations of gases in the atmosphere. So we depend on what is prevailing in the atmosphere. If the amount of gas falls much below 15%, our respiratory system will be unable to provide enough oxygen to support cellular respiration. So I'm saying if in the air there's so much pollution, or there's less oxygen, we'll be unable to provide oxygen to our body tissues because of the reduction that we are describing here. So this also explains as to why when you are in an environment which is polluted, immediately your brain tells you like this place is not good for you, and you start finding means and ways of getting out of that place so that you can go to a place where there is enough oxygen for you to breathe, so that you are able to provide enough oxygen for cell respiration. The passage of air and the respiratory structures. The passage of air and respiratory structures. The human respiratory system consists of nasal cavity, the nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, smaller conducting passageways, bronchial and bronchus to each line of bronchioles, and the lungs and their coverings, the pleural muscles of the respiration, the intercostal muscles, and the diaphragm. So what we've described here are the structures that makes up the respiratory system. The structures that makes up the respiratory system. The respiratory system may be divided into two parts. This respiratory system may be divided into two parts. The first one is upper respiratory tract, and the second one is lower respiratory tract. The upper respiratory tract consists of the upper respiratory tract consists of the upper respiratory tract consists of the parts outside the thoracic cavity, that is the chest, consists of the parts outside the thoracic cavity. The air passages of the nose, nasal cavities, pharynx, windpipe, larynx or voice box, and upper trachea. Then the lower respiratory tract consists of the parts found in the thoracic or chest, that is the lower trachea and the lungs themselves. So here we are trying to mention some structures which are involved in the upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. So for the upper respiratory tract, we've mentioned things like the air passages, the nasal cavities, the pharynx, the windpipe, larynx, which can be also called the voice box, and the upper tract. Then the lower respiratory tract consists of parts found in the thoracic cavity itself, which happens to be the chest. The lower trachea and the lungs themselves are part of the lower respiratory tract. So air enters the respiratory system through the mouth or the nose. We are saying you can either breathe through the mouth or through the nostrils. The nose and the nasal cavity. The nose and the nasal cavity position and structure. The nose and the nasal cavity position and structure. The nasal cavity is the first of the respiratory organs and consists of a larger irregular cave divided into two equal parts by a septum. We are just trying to describe the nostril, which everybody hears. So you can actually see that the nostril has two holes, the right and the left. So we're saying it is divided by the septum. It is divided by the septum. The posterior bone part of the septum is formed by the perpendicular parent of the ethmoid bone and the vomer. Anteriorly, it consists of hyaline cartilage. So when you're describing the nostrils, the nostrils of the nasal cavity, the ethmoid bone and the vomer bone have to be mentioned together with the hyaline cartilage. So here is the diagram showing some structures of the respiratory system with the nose, the hyoid bone, the thyroid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage, the right clavicle, the right lung, the parietal pleural, the visceral pleural, the pleural cavity, the inferior vena cava, also the aorta, the vertebral column, base of left lung. We have the diaphragm with the heart space in here, the mediastinum. We have the ribs with the left primary bronchus, with the trachea. We have the apex of the lungs, the larynx, the epiglottis, and the pharynx. So here are some of the important structures that you need to know. So you can find time and get familiarized with them on your own. So here you can see the upper airway. The upper airway, we are showing the nose, the mouth, the epiglottis, the trachea. So in other ways, here we're just trying now to make it more clear to you by means of a diagram where we say upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. So these are the structures that can also help you to differentiate between the two. Even this, it is also showing some of the things that we've already discussed. So you can take time and have a look at them so that you are able to know these structures in relation to respiratory system. So the roof is formed by the clibliform plate of the roof is formed by clibriform plate of the ethmoid bone and the sphenoid bone, the frontal bone, and the nasal bone. We are still describing the nasal cavity. The floor is formed by the roof of the mouth. The floor is formed by the roof of the mouth. If you look at your nose, what is under the nose there is the bone which is found on top of the mouth. That's why I'm saying it's formed by the roof of the mouth and consists of the hard palate in the left and the soft palate behind. The hard palate is composed of the maxilla and the palatine bones, and the soft palate consists of involuntary muscles. The soft palate consists of involuntary muscles. The medial wall is formed by the septum, like I said previously. The lateral walls are formed by the maxilla, the ethmoid bone, and the inferior concave. The posterior wall is formed by the posterior wall of the pharynx. The posterior wall is formed by the posterior wall of the pharynx. So here we are so that our description can make more sense. You can see that here we have the vomer, and we have the sinus, the sinus in the sphenoid bone of the hypophyseal fossa, of the perpendicular parrot of the ethmoid bone, also of the sinuses in the frontal bone, also of the nasal bone, also of the hyaline cartilage, which we mentioned, and the maxillar bone. These are structures forming the nasal septum. The structures forming the nasal septum. Now let us look at the lining of the nose. The nose is lined with very vascular serrated columnar epithelium, blanket serrated mucosa membrane, which contains mucus secreting globulate cells, which contains mucus secreting globulate cells. So this also explains as to why in your nose you find some secretions, mucus, especially when you're having an infection of the upper respiratory tract, because those they get irritated and they secrete more secretions. At the anterior nares, this blends with the skin, and posteriorly it extends into the nasal part of the pharynx. Let us look at openings to the nasal cavity. The anterior nares or nostrils are the openings from the exterior into the nasal cavity. Hairs are present in this area. The hairs are present in this area, which helps in the trapping of dust so that we prevent infections of upper respiratory tract. We prevent upper respiratory tract infections. The posterior nasal cavities are the openings from the nasal cavity into the pharynx. The paranasal sinuses are cavities in the bones of the face and the cranium, which contains air. There are tiny openings between the paranasal sinuses and the nasal cavities. They are lined with mucous membrane continuous with that of the nasal cavity. The main sinuses are, we have the maxillar sinus in the lateral walls, the frontal and sphenoid sinuses in the loop, of ethmoidal sinuses in the upper part of the lateral walls. So these sinuses are quite important. Have you ever wondered as to why our head doesn't get bigger? Our head doesn't get bigger because of these sinuses. The fluids which are produced on daily basis are able to get rid of, are able to get out of our head, our cavities through these sinuses, so that homeostasis is being maintained. Away from drainage, sinuses, they also help to encourage the voice. That's how we are able to recognize the voice of each and every individual, because of the role that the sinuses plays. The sinuses functions in speech and also serve to write the skull through the drainage that I've explained. The nasolacrimal ducts extends from the lateral walls of the nose to the conjunctiva side of the eye. They drain tears from the eyes, which I've already explained. Then let us look at the respiratory system of the nose. Let us look at the respiratory system of the nose. The nose is the first of the respiratory passage which the expired air passes. So it is the first respiratory organ. When you breathe, your air has to first pass through the nose. The function of the nose is to begin the process by which the air is warmed, moistened, and filtered. We don't breathe the air that is dry. So the air that is coming from the outside world is dry. The moment it reaches the nostrils or the nose area, when we mentioned that the nostrils area, when we mentioned that it is highly vesicular. So because it is highly vasicularized, the blood that comes to the nostrils, it is able to warm this dry air which is coming outside, so that it can go inside, and the nostrils also starts the process of filtering. The air comes with a lot of impurities, among them dust. They are going to remain within the nostrils, so that they don't choke the lungs, because if anything dirty reaches the lungs may get infected. The projecting concha increase the surface area and cause tuberous spreading inspired air over the whole nasal surface. The larger surface area maximizes warming, humidification, and the filtering process which we've mentioned. So away from that, this is what we've been describing of the middle nasal concha, the superior nasal concha, also the sinuses in the sphenoid band, which you can see them from here. Also of the nasopharyngeal tonsils, which actually goes under inflammation when someone has infection of the tonsils. We also have the posterior nasals or posterior nasal cavity, the opening of the auditory nerve. That's where it passes through. Then the soft parete, extension of the soft parete there coming from the lung, from the tongue. Then anterior nasal, we also have the maxillary bone, the hyaline cartilage, the nasal bone, and the sinus in the flat bone of frontal sinus. So these form the lateral walls of the nasal cavity. They form the lateral walls of the nasal cavity. Then the pathway of air from the nose to the larynx. The pathway of air from the nose to the larynx. How air moves from the nose to the larynx. You can see it from the nose. It moves like this. The nasopharyngeal tonsil there. Before it reaches there, we also have what we call the nasopharynx. Then the soft parete. Then from the soft parete, it comes down here until it reaches the larynx just here. The larynx just here. So all these structures, they're just trying to show us how air moves from the nose to the larynx. So functions includes warming, like I said, filtering and cleaning of air, also production of mucus, which I mentioned earlier. So mucus protects the underlying epithelial irritation and prevents it drying, which I mentioned. Then synchronous beating of the cilia waves the mucus towards the throat, where it is swallowed or expectorated. So the dust particles that might have entered the nose, the cilia will push the dust particles towards the throat, so that they can be swallowed and coughed outside through the mouth. So humidification, this occurs as air travels from the moist mucosa and becomes saturated with water vapor. Then auditory function of the nose is the organ of sense of smell. When someone is cooking something deliciously, you are able to smell using your nose that there is nice temperature which is being fried. So there are a lot of functions that the nose plays on: warming, filtering and cleaning of air, synchronous humidification, olfactory functioning of the nose, that is smelling with the help of the nose, with the help of the nose. So the nerve that plays a very important role in as far as olfactory sense is concerned is the olfactory nerve. the olfactory nerves, which moves to the brain where the sensation of smell is perceived, where the sensation of the smell is perceived. So for today, we may just end here so that next time when we come, we can start from the pharynx so that we are able to follow. I thank you so much for paying much attention. If there are no questions, let's end from here.